Okay, well, I would like to welcome all of you to our NUG community call for today. My name is Charles Lively. I'm a science engagement engineer here at NERSC, a part of the user engagement group. And also, Lippy, did you want to just, well, we're gonna go through introductions and stuff in detail. So today's community call is focusing on a topic that many people ask about, and it's basically exploring careers at and also within HPC. Especially in the time that we're in now with AI taking over and HPC and or cloud is pretty much everywhere, and it gives you a great opportunity, great career options to explore. And so with our call today, we wanted to give you a view into one of our groups at NERSC, um, Team Awesome. We're the user engagement group. And we have a couple of our team members that will be actively introducing themselves, giving a little bit of background and their story, and trying to just define a narrative of what we do on a day-to-day basis at NERSC, and also give you a chance to ask questions, give a little bit of background and everything as well. So first thing we'll start is just with a few announcements since our last NUC call. And one of those, of course, is that we have, of course, announced our newest system that is going to be launching at the end of the year, Doudna. And so Doudna was codenamed Nurse 10. Most of our systems are given a nurse and then the number abbreviation. Doudna is named after Jennifer Doudna, Nobel laureate at Berkeley Lab, who won the Nobel Prize in Chemistry for advances in CRISPR technology. And so Doudna aims to provide a performance that is over 10 times of what we currently have with Perlmutter. So trying to take us into the exascale era in our computing. And so more details will be coming out about the structure of Doudna, what we're aiming to do to make it more user-friendly, enabling more efficient workflow environments. Again, the CPU, GPU hierarchical architecture, as well as improvements that we made to the the interconnect as well as our storage systems as well. So this will actually be a Dell provided system, deviating from our typical Crave system. So it's going to be a new approach for us, but something that we know is going to be exciting and very beneficial for our users as we redefine different workflows and whatnot. So that was one of the major announcements that happened earlier in the month when our the new secretary for the Department of Energy came to the lab as well. So that is one of the exciting nurse updates that we do have for you. More to come, and a more detailed discussion will actually occur at our annual user meeting in October as well. And so, Lippy, did you want to say a little bit about the annual meeting or anything or?
Sure. Yeah. So actually just today, and you'll hear a little bit more, or you'll probably get an email from me about this later. We've opened up our call for participation. So in the weekly email, later today, you'll see some information about how to submit a talk if you're interested in sharing your research at the annual meeting. So make sure you check that out, fill out that form. The due date or the submissions will close on Monday, July 21st. So you have about 3 weeks to get your submissions in there. And then we hope, as usual, the annual meeting is really meant to highlight user science. So if you want to participate in that, please make sure you submit your presentation.
Again, and more details to come. It's in the weekly email as well. So thank you. So moving right along, let's launch right into things. So today in our NUG series on career opportunities at NERSC and HPC, we're focusing on our group, the user engagement group. We are codenamed Team Awesome because we're just an awesome group of people. And mainly what we focus on for our nurse users and nurse community is, of course, user engagement and outreach. We do coordinate most of the training and updates to documentations, uh, coming up with ideas for the community call events that we host, as well as general ways in which we can improve the user experience for all of you. That is our mission. We consider ourselves to be the front line for interacting and engaging with nurse users. And our team is um, very, very awesome, amazing group of individuals, intelligent, hardworking, dedicated to the mission of Nurse in the Department of Energy, which is focused on helping accelerate science that is mission critical to the Department of Energy's mission. We have a few of our team members here and on the panel. Our group lead, Dr. Rebecca Hartman Baker, is on vacation, so she couldn't join us today, but you normally get weekly emails from her or when she's out from Kevin. And then we also have Lippy, who is here as well, who is a science engagement engineer, our counterpart. We love to say that we're a package deal. So you get us together. And then we have other excellent team members, Lisa Klaus, that you've probably seen a lot of videos and other correspondence from. We have Liz Ball, who is basically over our communications and interfacing with NERSC for community events. We have Margie Wiley, who is also, she handles basically the NERSC website. So all of the website updates, myself, Helen, Kelly Rowland, who is one of our consultants and our Jupyter expert. And then we also have Annette Griner here, who is our user experience and user interface expert. But we have a few of our team members that are going to just provide a little bit of an introduction for themselves. So we'll just start first with Kevin. If Kevin, you want to introduce yourself, give a little bit of background about you and maybe how you got to nurse and yeah.
Oh, well, that's a boring story. Um, so hello, my name is Kevin Gott. I am the community engagement lead. That is a lead without any special authority or privilege. So don't look to me to be able to, sign up extra hours or anything for you. I'm simply the person organizing our community engagement strategy as we move forward with the team. So background, I went to Penn State. I liked mechanical engineering because of its broad range of possible applications. So I stuck with it all the way through and got BS, MS, and PhD at Penn State. My first job after a year of hunting was a NESAP postdoc. So I worked with codes, teams, making things go faster, performance analysis, all the kind of cool stuff that you do when you do a postdoc. Sat in a bunch of rather interesting teams, a rather wide variety. Ended up sticking with AMRX, the mesh and particle framework library that does all kinds of stuff and all kinds of codes all over the all over the DOE at this point. Learned a lot. Try and bring it forward that user experience to helping users use the system and use it well. So my technical interests, of course, are user engagement, strategy, principles, design methodologies, things that how we're going to do it and how we're going to do it well. Oh, Bowen, NESAP is, does that acronym still have it in meaning anymore? It is the project that we have that in which we assign postdocs to targeted NESAP codes, scientific codes to help them achieve their goals on the system. The In ECP, the main goal was make your code go faster so you can use the system more performantly, so you can do bigger and better research. So a NESAP postdoc would sit with a targeted code team and make it go faster for whatever their limitation was. Find it out and tell the entire world about what it is and how it works. Perfect. Thank you. So let's see, where was I at? Oh, interest. Okay, yes. So user engagement, obviously. I'm now sitting in a bunch of N10 meetings. So architecture and system design is starting to creep into a real interest. How are we going to do this? How's it all going to fit together? And then AMRX is the mesh and particle code. So all kinds of performant things with that. The big ones there currently being MPI and load balancing. So if you have any of those questions, I'm around to help out with all of those types of stuff. It does have an acronym. Perfect. Thanks, Charles. So fun facts, I'm a gamer, usually not competitive or light competition. Something that's hyper competitive just bores me. I don't need to optimize it. I just want to have fun and understand. Hiker, I'm also a cross-country transplant. I'm originally from Maryland and then went to Penn State and then went back to Maryland and hunted for a year. And now I'm in California. So I'm kind of from all over the place at this point. Oh, and yes, if I seem distracted, it's because I'm working on that weekly email that Lippy had talked about right now. It's literally open on this screen over here, and I'm putting together blurbs as we speak and editing. So bear with me as I get distracted writing the weekly email.
Being a part of our team, you got to learn to multitask.
This is true. This is very true.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Well, thank you. And we will move on next to Annette.
Hi. So, yeah, I'm Annette Greiner. I'm the user experience lead at NERSC, which is a relatively new position. I've only had this title for like a year and a half, something like that, I think. Um, I came to NERSC back in 2010 as a web developer, and I was very interested in building websites for data sharing. And so I ended up on the data and analytics services team, which is now the data and AI services team. Um, but I, had done my master's work around user experience, and I really wanted to be able to apply what I learned. So when NERSC decided it really wanted to have somebody who fulfilled a specific role around user experience, I was like, oh yeah, I want to do this. So applied and got that position. Um, I worked at three different national user facilities. I worked at the Advanced Light Source for a while, the Joint Genome Institute, and NERSC. I did web development work at all of them. And then between JGI and NERSC, I went off to get my master's. So I came back very interested in interaction design for scientific research and user-centered work. Now, of course, applying that to HPC. As I mentioned, I've always been interested in web application development, and I also developed a little extra expertise in data visualization and sharing. And I ended up teaching a course in that at UC Berkeley for their Master's in Information Management program. Actually, Master's in Data Science program, MIDS. And I guess a couple fun facts about me. I have two dogs. One who was raised in Kenya as a member of the Peace Corps, and the other was a stray from the Central Valley. And then I also, like I say, I ran away from medical school to join the theater. Uh, yeah, I was in medical school at University of Michigan, and then had a bunch of friends, and had been doing theater in Ann Arbor, and the company decided to move to Chicago and found a real theater company. So if you're ever in Chicago, you could look up Theater Oobleck, a group that I helped found.
Be in Chicago in August for a boot camp, so I'm going to look them up.
Oh, look at, yeah, yeah.
Cool, cool. Well, thank you, Annette. And next up, we have Lippy.
Hello. So my background is pretty much only physics. Since I was in high school, I knew I wanted to study physics. So I did my undergraduate degree in physics from Cornell University, which is in upstate New York, a very snowy place. And then I moved to Chicago, which is also a very snowy place, to do my PhD. Good places to do that kind of thing because you're not tempted to go outside because it's cold and really sad. But Chicago is amazing, as Annette also kind of mentioned. I love Chicago. So my interests, my PhD was in particle accelerator physics, specifically in electron beam dynamics, and that's how I ended up running simulations at NERSC, because simulating electrons, like individual electrons, is very computationally expensive. So you want to use HPC to do that when you need to do that. And then I kind of actually, Rebecca sort of recruited me into working at NERSC and became more of like an HPC evangelist now. And so I actually also came in through this NESAP program. And was doing some work with the ALS, and now with Rebecca's group, really focus on community engagement. I basically think of like when I was a NERSC user, a brand new NERSC user, like what could have helped me be more successful, or kind of do things better or more efficiently. So that's sort of my interest now and what I do now. Um, I couldn't talk about my dogs without putting a picture. Annette, we got to see those pictures of those dogs. It's illegal to talk about your dogs and not put pictures. So these are my guide dogs for the blind that I raise. I volunteered to do that. And then when I'm not with the dogs, I'm probably on my adventure motorcycle riding around in the forest somewhere. All right, that's it. Thanks.
Thank you, Lippy. And next up, we have Helen.
Hi everyone. My name is Helen He. I'm the NERSC user training lead. So my background, I have a PhD in marine studies, basically physical oceanography. And I came, my fun fact is that I came from China to US for my PhD. And while doing the PhD, my topic is like numerical simulation, El Nino stuff. And I think I need to learn more about computer science. So I got a master's in computer science in the meantime. Then I came to the Berkeley lab for my postdoc. I think the cross disciplines with the computer science and scientific background is kind of useful in my work. I worked in the scientific computing group, working on climate software engineering. There was a big CESM, big it's called a coupled climate compute model that I think I worked on the ocean side and also worked on coupler, which is a software engineering side. Then there was at that time there was like NERSC doing lots of procurement, and I was involved in the climate benchmarking for the Franklin, which is NERSC 5 procurement. And then when there was a climate, our group does lots of consulting, right? And there's also like some special support for different disciplines. Lots of us have different background. We've heard in mechanical engineering, in chemical engineering, all these. So having a background in scientific area is also good for having you know what users are talking about. Anyway, that time there was a climate sort of consultant, just got retired, so I applied for a NERSC job, and I'm here as a consultant. And then when I'm here, because the Franklin needs a sort of a point of contact for user side, because I was already involved in the procurement. The other two previous NERSC people they were in the same procurement group at the same time as I am. They were from NERSC, but there was like big reorganizations, and both of them just became group lead. So like, oh, hey, Helen, you're a good appropriate person to try to be the Franklin point of contact. So then I took on, and for that role, basically doing lots of communication, advocate for users, documentation, and work with systems group and vendors on system bugs, and early user access, and then running jobs, and all sorts of things. Basically advocate for users and using environment settings on the systems. So I was also for Hopper, the ledger system, and there was in between Hopper and Corey was Edison. I wasn't for that, but I was also Corey point of contact. The system right now on floor is Perlmutter, but then I shifted to do more of training. I was also doing training for Corey Hopper before as well. But then we started to do lots of training, so my focus becoming more of right now the training. Then also for the training role, of course, collaborating with other groups, our group is one of the group facing user, but you'll see in the next few sessions, other data science group, engagement group, programming environment, all these groups. So we coordinate with all the other groups for coordinating training and work with other centers and work with their vendors as well. So my interest in user training and advocacy, and also scientific computing, especially climate, is still my kind of field. And the user environment, as I said, all these different systems, including software, including the libraries, all these things, user environment, and how that can be most efficiently used for our system, for our users, for reaching your scientific goals. The other thing I'm interested in is programming models, especially OpenMP. I'm part of the OpenMP language committee, and I have actually written a book, co-authored a book on OpenMP Common Core, making OpenMP simple again, published by MIT Press. But then without my knowing, it was translated into Chinese without my input at all. So I'm very happy to see a Chinese copy. Sometimes I feel like, oh, the keywords, the terminologies I'm not even familiar with. How do we say it in Chinese? But they got my name right as well. Very interesting. So I'm interested in programming models and then also the performance portability. We have so many different models on CPUs and GPUs. So for our users, having the portability and optimization is as a key. So I'm keen for these as well.
Awesome.
So
Awesome. Thank you, Helen. And so I guess last is me. So I kind of introduced myself in the beginning. And as you can see, we have a number of our team has varying backgrounds. My background is just straight up computer and electrical engineering. Um, Bachelor's, master's, and PhD. I earned my bachelor's in computer engineering from Mercer University in Macon, Georgia, and then went on. I did a summer undergraduate summer research experience at the University of Tennessee, Knoxville, and that's what got me interested in exploring grad school and research. And so I went to Texas A&M and got my master's and PhD. After finishing my PhD, I actually took a different route. I was offered a postdoc at Oak Ridge National Lab and decided to turn it down because life happens and I felt a little burnt out. And so I decided to take a year off and explore different options. And that's when I got into startup consulting. And I also lectured at Kennesaw State and Georgia Tech. I live in Atlanta, so I work remotely. I've co-founded two startups one in drone technology and data analytics, data processing, and one focusing on financial education and financial underwriting. And I've also consulted with over a dozen startups in early stage. When I was a lecturer at Georgia Tech, I was a faculty advisor for their CreateX program, which is kind of like their senior design for students that want to start a startup. Um, and so, but life eventually led me back to NERSC. I was aware of NERSC because NERSC was actually the first supercomputing system that I got access to back in 2005. Seaborg and I believe it was Jacquard. I think that was NERSC 3 and 4. That was my first introduction. And so when I saw a position available at NERSC, I was like, oh, I know NERSC, and I applied. And fortunately for me, I ended up working for Rebecca, who I met when I interned at Oak Ridge. So, you never know who you will meet. And the HPC and the DOE community, the scientific community is very small. And so it's good to always put forth a good effort, make good quality friends with people and get to know them. And, you never know what might happen. So my background, being in computer engineering, I focused on performance modeling and evaluation of applications. So I would always just be giving a scientific application and, I would analyze it, profile it, figure out what modules could be optimized if it was communication or computational heavy. and then figure out a strategy for improving that. And later I ventured into doing energy aware computing and energy power optimization. My interest is in focusing on HPC training and development with a user-centered approach. Someone that's neurodivergent and ADHD and dyslexia. It's always been I've always learned a little bit differently. So it's a very passionate point for me to try to make sure that when I do any trainings or teach that I'm not leaving anyone behind. So that's a passion for me. Uh, Fun facts about me. I reintroduced myself to music last year. So I've been relearning. I'm teaching myself how to play the flute, and relearning piano and drums. I played piano growing up and percussion in middle and high school band. Um, Also, I delved heavily into shamanism. True story, I grew up in South Georgia in a South Georgia Baptist family. Dad was a deacon pastor at an early age. I decided I did not want to go to church, and now I end up going into a different spiritual area and being a spiritual practitioner in that sense. So I don't know. You can't escape your destiny sometimes, but that is me. I joined Nurse about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago, as a science engagement engineer. Lippy and I are the first uh, nurse staff to, or I believe lab staff to have this title actually. It was something that our leader Rebecca created to help um, put a priority focus on really engaging users within the nurse community. And so with that, that is me. And what we would like to do maybe now is give everyone a opportunity to share a little bit about what they do at Nurse or as a user as a being a member of the user engagement group. Maybe if we want to do a little round robin, starting back with Kevin again, about, what does your day-to-day look like, or what do you enjoy most in a week about in your responsibilities at what you do at Nurse?
Those are some very different questions. Okay, let's see. Um, I'm in an interesting position where I'm usually have 1.5 billion hats. So we just finished our performance assessment. And as part of your performance assessment, you have goals for last year and you fill them in. And how I filled it out this year was I ended up having to put new in like 7 or 8 different places because I just took on some new responsibility or had some new thing to do this year. So all my goals have like new, there was no spot for what I did this year, all this extra stuff that was happening. Um, on the user engagement side, well, I'm often helping Rebecca with all the regular daily tasks that are happening, weekly email, reservations, various forms of tickets, helping discuss more complicated uh, performance issues with various staff that come along. Let's see. Probably the most common one lately has been advocating for users in a bunch of N10 meetings wherever they pop up. A lot of the Doudna planning is very technical, and sometimes there's user-involved issues that require a specialized voice to really speak up and say, hey, how's the user going to interact with that or do that, or how's it going to look to them? So that's probably the most regular thing that I'm doing. The most fun thing I'm probably doing is planning for Doudna in a more strict sense. I'm as someone who's worked with Amerex at this point, I'm now an Amerex developer. And so I'm working with summer students for the past 2 years and doing things that hopefully have a forward-facing picture about what to do next. So that's probably the funnest thing I got going on right now is summer students and cool engagements and building new technical things. Although that's probably just barely beating a lot of the other tasks I do. It's not that, there isn't a standout activity. All of them are usually pretty good.
Good deal. Annette, did you want to take it away? And I figure we can kind of go in the same order as the slides.
Right, makes sense. Let's see. Well, a typical day in the life of a UAG person, of course, includes a lot of meetings. That's a thing. And we always complain about it because it seems to take up a lot of our time. But the more I think about it, the more essential it is to the culture that we have at NERSC, that we're very democratic. And in order to make decisions in such a democratic way, we have to listen to each other. And so meetings are the really the primo way of doing that. And sometimes you can't do in an email what you can in a meeting. So a lot of my work in particular is cross-cutting across different groups. So I do try to spend a fair amount of my time meeting with other people, talk to people in different groups within NERSC. Um, and also I like to talk with users because, understanding the user experience is the primary requirement for actually designing for the user experience. You have to understand what people are going through. Uh, and so I guess I will say, to anybody here who's a user, and if you have any recurring pain points that you haven't really found a good way to express, I'm happy to hear those. You can always find me on the NERSC user Slack, or just, send me an email, amgriner@lbl.gov. Um, in terms of stuff that's fun to work on, like everything's fun, which is why I have this job. Uh, Lately, I'm really enjoying working on an updated status page. We have a new status page that was released with the uh, latest update to the NERSC website at www.nersc.gov. And that is actually kind of an interim update. It doesn't include a bunch of changes that we're going to make that will hopefully make things easier for users to understand what's going on at the center. We're going to try to give a lot richer detail about what's going on with the different resources. But I'm enjoying working on that. And also I'm enjoying on working on stuff for NERSC 10. We're looking at advanced workflows and what those can be like in a new system. And so it's kind of amazing to be able to ideate about that and try to think about how people might actually use a system that's really geared toward making workflows easier. So that's me.
Cool. Thank you, Annette. What do you feel? And everyone, feel free to, ask questions as people talk if you want clarifying points on what they talk about. This is meant to be interactive and not just, we want to give you an idea of everything that we do, but we also want to hear if you have questions or whatnot. So, feel free to, chime in with any questions or thoughts that you have. And so, Annette, I do have one question. What do you think, like with Doubtnut, what do you feel are going to be some of the biggest workflow challenges, or if you can
Mm.
speak to it?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, so the heterogeneity for sure. I mean, people are going to be running AI-based workflows and combinations of AI and more standard modeling simulation. There's just like a lot of different types of workflows. And we need to make things work for everyone. And there are data users who aren't even necessarily starting jobs at NERSC, but they're benefiting from the outcome of it. So I'm trying to be very inclusive and make sure that what we're doing works not only for people who are automating the workflow, but for anyone who's running a job at NERSC.
Cool, cool, awesome. Lippy, did you want to give your
Yeah, sure. It's so funny because I've been trying to figure out what does a day look like for me. I think I my days look really different based on kind of what I'm working on. Some of the stuff that I've been doing is kind of improving our new user experience, and part of that has been actually like writing some content, developing content, editing it. So sometimes I'm just doing kind of like focused work. That is not as often as I would like it to be. Most of the time, I'm actually coordinating a lot of different events or meetings So for example, one of the main tasks that I have that Charles mentioned is planning our annual meeting. So by this time of the year, that's taking up a lot of my time in terms of figuring out, who our speakers might be, what kinds of events, or what kinds of talks to have. So there's like an event planning aspect, but there's, so it's kind of funny because sometimes I'm like, how is this what I'm doing? But that is engagement, right? Like we're trying to put together an event where people will want to come and meet each other and engage with each other. Um, then part of my time is spent consulting. I really like doing this because it keeps me kind of part of the technical work at NERSC, since a lot of the time I am, sending emails or doing, it's still like when I'm writing content for example, our new user course or whatever, I'm still, having to access the technical information that I know about our system or look at our documentation and then, make it more approachable or so forth. So it's not that it's not technical work. But in consulting, so when we say consulting, it's like if you submit a help ticket, there's a person at the other end who looks at that ticket and tries to either help you or route it to someone else who can help you. And so then, it's like problem solving. It's like a puzzle, right? You have to figure out, sometimes people send you a ticket and they think the issue they're having is A, but in fact it's X, and then you need to tell them, some something else that they weren't really ready for, or something along those lines. So that can be part of my day. It's going to increase going forward. I've been kind of slowly ramping up on that. Um, yeah, just a lot of like talking to people, coordinating things, a lot of emails, making connections. I mean, part of engagement work is like making like tapping into our networks and finding ways to you know have interesting events or find new ways for our users to get information that they need. So I try to pay attention to what other centers are doing. We have a lot of different collaborations with them. So sometimes we're working together on that. It can be very, very weird, varied. um, what my days kind of look like. Sometimes we're teaching. This past June was a lot of actually teaching, training events. So yeah.
Awesome. Helen, did you want to?
Yeah, so as our group, I also do lots of consulting. On the days I'm not doing consulting, I do a lot of training planning, soliciting, and hosting, helping. Actually, everyone, all the panelists here are in our training team, core team, and we also have weekly meetings discussing, and then each one of us would, go out, like have an area, but I do a lot of also coordinating with other centers. We have a big collaboration with Argonne, Llano, Oak Ridge, and other centers, and so sometimes I come up with ideas, sometimes they come up with ideas. We host training events, like co-host them, and we have the same big materials together, but then we also have different hands-on. But on the other side, I have also reached out to vendors. We have like Cody, we have HPE, we have NVIDIA for the hackathons, for boot camps, lots of planning, and I also prepare hands-on materials, verifying, getting the environment, the modules ready. And for other events, when our staff wants, sometimes I like try to foresee those are the things I think our users need. So we would say, who is our expert at NERSC, and just solicit those staff members. Like we recently had VASP training, and we had containers training, we had SF API training. All these trainings, I went to those staff. Hey, can you do that? Can you? I mean, and we also was like leading months because they need to prepare materials, and then walk through them how to actually hosting those events. These are users. These are experts probably not into specifics of how to do training logistic stuff. So I did prepare a hosting a training event playbook step by step how you should do, and the admins can help, but also make sure things don't get lost, like registration forms and deadlines and, calendar, all these, and posting events, videos and slides afterward. So overall, lots of planning for training, soliciting, and recently, so for NERSC 10, there's more planning on how and when we should get our materials or topics. There's something new for NERSC 10. Some are not even there yet. So how do we collaborate, coordinate with other NERSC 10 staff? How do we what are the topics we should plan, half a year ahead of the time, and how frequently, and which pieces we ready now, we should already, we can, even demonstrate on Perlmutter, even though it's preparing for NERSC 10 and preparing documentation before the users as well. So lots of meetings, NERSC 10 involved, plannings as well. And then on the OpenAP side, we have weekly meetings and also annual meetings, not annual meetings, face-to-face meetings. We brought a team to Berkeley as well for all the experts. We hosted monthly OpenAP training series. I did all the hands-on stuff, showing them how to do CPU GPU programming. What else? Then also the actual specifications or the review specification, reviews, example documents, review of the tickets, ideas, other members brought up. I've been contributing to the ideas from our side as well and adopted it into OpenMP standard. So
Awesome. Lippy, you had a question or you wanted to say something?
I wanted to add a little bit of description of what that NESAP postdoc thing was that Kevin and I mentioned. So if there's any follow-up for what Helen has talked about, if anyone has any questions, please feel free to ask about that. But since the postdoc is a common way that people arrive at NERSC, I thought it might be nice for us to talk a little bit about what that is.
Yeah. You want to talk really quickly about it?
Sure. So, and this will change, but in general, the way that postdocs work at NERSC is it's a little bit different than a postdoc maybe in the most like common academic sense. In this case, it's like it's a postdoc because you've probably just finished your doctorate and now it's like the first thing you're doing after that. So postdoc. But it's in some ways it's more, if anything, preparing you to work maybe in this kind of like a NERSC environment or maybe in industry. So it's a little bit more focused on those kinds of skills that rather than like publishing. You may publish, but it's not the real like the goal of the postdoc. So the way it usually works is as a postdoc, you get paired up with a science team. So at NERSC, we have all these different scientists who are coming and doing their calculations at NERSC. Some of them have software that needs to be updated or they want to add a new capability, or in this case, now we're going to the new system. Maybe they'll want to rewrite large sections of it to make it really efficient for the new architecture. And so the postdoc kind of gets assigned to one of those groups to help them do that. So in some cases, the postdocs come in and have special knowledge or skills in terms of like their coding skills so that they can quickly start helping do that kind of work. In my case, I have always been just pretty much a Python programmer. And so I got paired up with a group that was doing a very Python heavy project that I was able to help them with. And so it's interesting because the postdoc is almost more like becoming like a research software engineer, which is maybe a term that you've heard of. But it's much more like you're doing software engineering for a specific group of scientists. So if you're interested in that, that's also something to consider. And again, I would say it's a really nice transition from academia into industry. Like I think after that postdoc, you'd be really ready to go off and do something else. You'd be really ready to join NERSC. Like I said, a lot of postdocs stay at NERSC. And but also at the same time, like you might be able to get some good publications if that's something you want to do, and then continue on doing like more academic work. So just wanted to add that.
Good information. And so we had a question from Koa, if I'm saying your name correctly. They ask about the application cycle typically for a position at nurse. I don't know if maybe Kevin or Helen, maybe you wanted to speak to that, or
Sure. So for the postdoc position, once a NESAP cycle starts, it kind of stays open. Um, postdoc is a pretty mobile, moving target, and we typically open it up and have quite a few postdocs available. So something like on the order of 12 to 15 is, available for, we could potentially use 12 to 15 effectively, some number that gets decided as we go. And typically you don't keep 12 on hand perpetually. So that's a moving target and the position kind of stays open for the length of the NESAP. For a more traditional NERSC job, it depends on the need. It depends on what's going on, what we expect that is needed as time goes on, who is coming and going. And so the cycles for when things are generally open often fall close to an academic schedule, in my experience. Not precisely in any way, shape, or form, but when, for example, other companies start hiring would be the same time that maybe some NESAP people find a good opportunity or nurse people find a good opportunity and move to another position, right? So you'll pretty much be looking for the same kind of times you would expect an academic would be the most obvious times to hit. And staff are generally permanent. So if that's the question you're asking about cycle, once you're a staff, you're here to here until, till the day comes when you have something better to go on to, hopefully.
I think I would encourage you to apply for NISA postdoc when the posts are out. There will definitely be some positions out for the Doubtner, and many actually, as Kevin just said. In the past, because you work with an application team, so and you work with lots of vendor directly, you work with a nurse staff, and our actually outcome for the postdoc after you graduate from postdoc is quite good. Some of them are left. I kept at NERSC as long as there's openings for the real job openings, and you become a quite good candidate because you showed how you can how you were performed as a NISA postdoc, and the doors for the industry are also open to you. Lots of people go to AMD, to NVIDIA, and the Corey days go to Intel. Right, so that's also good connection that you have being able to build up as a NISA postdoc. Some went to their own original places as a faculty in the academic. I think it's really good. I think those information are public on NERSC website for the postdocs outcomes.
good points. I think
Agreed.
one thing that's good to note is that for me, nurse is a great place to work, which is why a lot of, even postdocs will try to stay. Um, a thing that I always say is a deciding factor in why I turned down it was a named fellowship postdoc at Oak Ridge. And in all honesty, I turned it down because a lot of the people there did not look happy. And so, that's one thing about nurse that everyone is very happy with the work that they do and who they get to work with. And, even when I applied, I saw, with Rebecca Hartman Baker working here and other nurse staff like Hea, who has been promoted to a division lead. I knew them from Oak Ridge. And I had in my mind, like, oh, if they're there, then this must be a good place. Because those were good individuals that I had good experiences with. So that's, just another, point about Nurse and Berkeley Lab, the culture and everyone that we get to work with. It's a very positive, welcoming, and um, a very fluid environment. So you get to, you can pick and choose what you want to work on as long as it's in alignment with our mission and our goals. It's very, it's very flexible in what you can work on, which I think makes a lot of people happy because you get to decide if that's what you want to do. And so someone asked a little bit about the requirements for the postdoc.
Yes, I was trying to type on that. Generally speaking, a good postdoc. So the firm actual requirements are the DRE requires that people having postdoc positions have had their PhD for 5 years or less. And here you have 2-year contracts for your postdoc. So I believe it's 3 years out of your PhD is the only actual requirement. And postdoc positions are special positions where you have a PhD and specifically for helping you advance your research and building up a network and a research portfolio to potentially do stuff in research elsewhere. So for the postdoc position specifically, that's the only requirement. A good application involves someone who has experience with technical things. I had really no deep experience with computational science other than I wrote a code to do my research, and that worked out. So it doesn't necessarily have to be you're a comp sci specialist with a ton of information about how to run a code and how to make it faster, how to do things. It is experience within a particular field, say climate or material science or anything where you know how it works and you know kind of what's going on with it, hopefully something related to your research. And the biggest additional one is probably the ability to work well as a team. You are embedded with a team, you're working with NESAP, you're kind of sitting in the middle and exchanging information in a lot of different locations and sources. And the capability to communicate well and communicate as part of a team and to analyze the needs of a bunch of different people and come up with a good result about what you should do or a recommendation that someone should do is the other like non-technical strong thing that at least in all the postdoc things I've seen is a consistent one that's really good. But otherwise, yeah, otherwise, as long as you're, recently a PhD and you're not an English major, completely not interested in comp sci, then, you can apply. It should be perfectly fine. You should meet the requirements within some subset of things. And we have such a wide range of codes that it probably doesn't matter which code you're working on. We probably have that field of science, of computational science, in our wheelhouse somewhere with codes that we're interested in tackling. So overall, I believe you're probably ready to go as long as postdoc fits what you're looking for.
So now I think we have 3 categories of postdocs. There's traditional simulation, learning, and AI.
Oh, data. I think they
Data,
group
AI.
one of those. I think they group AI.
Learning is data,
Yeah.
is AI and data. Data and learning/AI.
But for the application part, that's probably, I wouldn't worry about it too much. They'll put you in the group that most aligns with what you want to do and how you want to do it.
Yeah, so that you will find a field of application of your interest to work on.
Yep.
Cool. Great questions. Did we have any other questions? Well, we're in the last couple of minutes, so I'll just do my little spiel on, again, for me, the day-to-day or week varies. Each week, I know I have at least one consulting shift, and that can require daily work following up on tickets. So like Lippy mentioned, when we have a when we do consulting, we're assigned a shift and we basically have a time period where we cover all of the tickets from that come in during that period, as well as, typically I work the morning shift, so I cover all of the tickets from the night as well as that morning. Then I also work on scheduling of the NUG calls and different events. Um, what I love is that I get to experiment and try out different community call events as well as trainings. Uh, so it can vary for me a lot. A lot of conference travel is involved if I'm going to go and speak or evangelize for NERSC and what we do, as well as collaborate for workshop and panels as well. So it's really I joke and I tell people I don't dream of working, but maybe this would be a dream job if I did dream. I'd rather be a millionaire or billionaire guy, you know. But if I did have to pick a dream job, I would pick this job. I love the people that I get to work with. You know, we have just like Nobel Prize winners, like in an office over here and over here. Every system that we have, we name after a lab Nobel Prize laureate. So, you know, you get to learn and talk with the most amazing and cool people, and it's a great place to work, a great place to be. And so Andrew asks in the chat, is there an expected time frame for NESAP openings? Is anyone aware of that or?
I was typing that. I get that question a lot, Andrew, and so I'm constantly asking. It's soon. I don't know what to make other than that, right? The NESAP call just went out for the new teams, and we need postdocs to assign to teams. So it's soon. I, 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 I don't know what else to say besides that, sadly.
You just
It's
have
gotta
to
be,
read that weekly email every single week.
yeah, I guess so. Or
When
there'll
it's
be,
out,
there'll
it's
Which
be
you've
already
already been
there.
doing, I'm sure. I'm sure everybody in here reads the weekly email from top to
Yeah.
bottom every single week. Yeah, soon TM. That's
yeah,
exactly it.
like
Huh.
the next round of NESAP has to be starting up in the near future here because we're preparing for Dowda. You're seeing the call, so it's not going to be on the order of years. It's also not like this week, so it's beyond that. It's kind of sketchy to guess, but it's got to be soon. It's got to be in the near future here. Soon TM, yes. It's very frustrating for me as well. I've said this many times over the past couple of months. So soon.
I think it'll be after the NESAP. Yeah, on the NESAP call, if there is a time there said NESAP applications announced, it'll be after that.
Yeah, but that's like
Soon after that.
yeah. It's like next week is when the NESAP call closes, right?
Yeah.
So
Uh,
very soon.
soon after that.
Well, did we have any other questions or did anyone want to add anything else? We're at the top of the hour or past the top of the hour. Um, yeah, do you guys have questions?
Hmm.
We'd love to hear from you if you do.
What I want to add is that NERSC is very collaborative work environment. That's why I enjoy so much. And I enjoy working with users to seeing users achieve their goals.
Yeah, and you get to learn like the collaboration, you get to work and learn so much. So if you're someone that likes to constantly learn like I do, I like to say I get bored really easily if I'm doing the same thing, which is why, you know, being in performance modeling, I work with a group or an application and learn a little bit about it. And then, you know, I can try and help in the way I can and move on to the next. So, you know, that's one thing that I love about not only my skill set, but, you know, working at Nurse as well. Any other questions or? All right, you're more than welcome. Annette, you can share.
Oh, I do have a big dog too.
I have two dogs too, as well.
Yeah.
We all have to share. Libby,
Mm.
you put pressure on us, so now we have to share.
Uh,
Well, if there are no other questions, we want to thank you for joining us on part one of this community call. Please be on the lookout for the next part, which will feature other groups at NERSC and other divisions as well. But we thank you all for attending and wishing you a happy Monday and, you know, a happy end of June and start of July. All right. Happy Monday, everyone. Have a great day.